Team X podcast powered by Rosenthal Coaching. Today we're going to discuss team culture and how does this support or prevent the team from achieving great results and high performance.
Hello, I'm Steluța Leo.
I'm Gabriel Trandafirescu.
We are professional coaches working with leaders and their teams to unleash their superpowers and maximize results. If you're new to our podcast and channel, follow us, subscribe to our channel, and follow us, connect with us so that you get notified whenever we go live. So as Gabe said, the topic of today is team culture and how does it support or prevent achieving better results? Because we know that awareness plays a key role in personal development, and team culture awareness does the same for team coherence and greatly impacts the team's ability to achieve high performance. So when we hear phrases like, this is how we do things around here, or this is who we are, these phrases speak about the team culture. Understanding your team culture can help create a stronger, more successful team. It can also help you achieve your goals and meet your KPIs faster. Failure to do so can cost you a lot of time and energy and resources and give you headaches. So here is what we're covering today. What is team culture and how does it differ from the larger organization culture? Why is it important to be aware of your team's culture? And how does team culture impact high performance? So let's start with the very beginning, Gabe. What is team culture and how does it differ from the larger organization's culture?
Thank you, Steluta. I will start from the larger organization because that's where I would say most people are familiar with. Like when any company states their values and mission and vision and all that, and how they approach, people and diversity and all the new stuff that's coming in, and paying more attention to people's lives. That's let's say the broader organization's culture, which is, I would say, more politically correct and public-facing culture, I would say, rather than internal culture. So that's what people from outside that organization, that's how they see the company. But when we talk about the team culture, is, I would say, is the more intimate level and layer of how people behave in a certain way within the team. And anybody who has ever been in a team knows that every team has their own stuff. This is how we drink coffee in the morning. This is how they celebrate birthdays in a certain way. They begin and end meetings in a certain way. They have their inside jokes. They have their own values. They maybe they play a certain sport, predominantly, or they watch some shows together, or they discuss a certain type of media they consume together and stuff like that. So in a way, in time, it's like people synchronize their own ways of doing things with each other, and there's an emerging, this is like an emerging culture, which is whatever you don't see in any kind of manual or company official memorandums. This is how people are behaving and relating to each other in a very non-official way, I would say. So what about you? Have you experienced a specific team culture where have you been, which is stuck with you, and you can have nice memories about it?
Yes, for sure. So you know that I've worked for really large organizations in my career in corporate sales. So I was within organizations in which so we know of different type of cultures, right? We know that there are theories out there that speak about creative environments, a creative type of culture, more strict type of culture, but we're not going to talk, and I'm not going to talk about these formal definitions or formal
Mm-hmm.
structural types of cultures. We're going to talk about the culture at large, right? So I was part of I was fortunately part of a team that was really suitable for me as an individual. It was a team in which communication was open. There was no need for too formal communication, except for the what we needed to exchange within emails and the
Mhm.
reports that we needed to submit. All the communication, all the decisions were taken verbally. The meetings were run smoothly. We very seldom had formal meetings like sitting around a round table and going through the details of something that we needed to discuss and strategizing around that. Usually these conversations were around a coffee table or around a lunch or a dinner, sometimes even with families. And this was probably the not probably this was actually the type of culture, the organizations that I thrived in, because this is how I am. I'm very informal. I like to make jokes, sometimes dirty jokes. I like to socialize with people. I don't like being very formal. So for me, it was very suitable, this type of culture. I was within the same organization, because you were talking about the larger company's organization and the team's organization. Within the same organization, I was in a different team years back, which was a very formal team, and I hated it. We are all sitting around the desk, around a big table in the meeting room. Everyone was formal. We were supposed to come on time. A couple of minutes prior to that, everyone was supposed to, to have the notes in front of them and to have the pen. Everyone's contribution needed to be received or delivered in a certain way. Only if the leader allowed you to speak. And you probably can hear from my tone of voice that that was not the place for me. For me, it was not. Honestly, I felt that every team meeting was a waste of time. I felt that every interaction was a forced one, and I felt that I could have lived and I could have achieved my goals without any of those interactions. And I didn't feel any support outside. I mean, during the regular work hours, outside the meetings, right? So I've experienced within the same organization two different types of cultures. And in one of them, I achieved my all my KPIs and I overachieved my targets and everything, but I did it because I'm a self-driven person. In the other one, I overachieved and I felt really good and motivated to go to work. And I was looking forward actually to meeting my mates and to our meetings, because our meetings were so informal, right? We were meeting at the Starbucks or coffee shops, or we were at various restaurants, or even with families over fishing trips and stuff like that. So I've experienced both of them, and this can, I think maybe it can be the transition towards understanding why is it important for a team leader to be aware of the team culture, because when it comes to onboarding new people, for example, this can be somehow not somehow actually, it can be really impactful, because when you onboard a person, when you're going through the recruitment and hiring and onboarding a person, this takes a lot of time and energy. So let's speak to that, Gabe, if you don't mind.
Yes, that's a very good transition, and the fact that you mentioned two teams, different, totally different teams, where you were a part of, and how different you related to each one of them. It's so important, and obviously, it's a very good transition to our second point, which is why it's important to be aware as a leader, and as I would say, generally as leadership, because it's not only the leader of that team that needs to be aware, but also all the people involved in uh, supporting that team and making it, high performing, because that's ultimately the goal for all people in leadership and HR and business partners and all that. So why is it important? Because I would say the short version is because it can cost you a lot of money if you are not aware. And one of the things you just mentioned, which is, I would say, the first point of entry for this potential very big costs and loss, if you will, is because if you're not aware and if you bring people on board who are very different than the team's culture, existing team's culture, first of all, they will not fit. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because they will not fit. This can create a very big ripple and multiple ripples within the team dynamics, which in turn switches the team focus from being high performing, provided that they were high performing uh, before that, and they were, glued together well, and they were working before this new person came in, and switching their focus from doing their stuff and to doing the things that they take them to being high performing, to inwards, their energy towards this struggle, this imbalance, because it's obvious when this type of person, it's so different than the team culture already existing. There is a big imbalance and the disruption that's created over there, and the team's attention is moved over there, and they cannot be high performing. So there you go. There's a big cost just by not being very attentive to who are you bringing in and if they match with the team culture.
Yeah, and I think this is a very good point that you made. You know that the energy is focused towards, if the individual doesn't fit within the team's culture, there is a lot of struggle internally. So I can tell you from my own experience. Instead of a lot of time, instead of focusing what I needed to do, I was spending it in my head. It's like, how the hell do I get out of this meeting? This is a shitty organization. This is a shitty team.
Hmm.
I don't feel supported. I needed to reach out. The effort that when I needed support, for example, because I didn't feel that I belonged to that team, and I didn't feel that the leader that I had was a supportive one, I was looking for ways and spending a lot of time to find support outside the
Hmm.
team, within other teams, where I had people that I could relate when I felt that they were similar to me and that we share the same kind of values, the same type of communication. So a lot of energy and effort is wasted like that. There is also, on the flip coin, the rest of the team also feels frustrated when one person does not fit
Hmm.
in within the team's culture, because they look at that person as an outsider. They withhold information, the collaboration, because
Hmm.
we've talked about the interdependencies within the team, right? Team members depend on each other, and if that person is not viewed as a valued member of the team, this dynamic, as you said, is affected. The collaboration doesn't flow smoothly, and it's a lot of effort that
Hmm.
um, it, it's funneled towards this dynamic. And there is another reason why we want to talk about the importance of being aware of your team culture. And this is when big changes happen, right? When you have to implement new changes within your team, right? Do you want to talk about that, and then I'll share my point of view on it.
Sure. Now, we want to make sure that bringing on board another person, it is a big change as well. But now we're considering the changes that uh, are facing the entire team as it is, right? Without having somebody else coming on board at the same time. So let's say you want to implement as a leader a new set of rules for engaging a new client. Let's say you were talking about the sales team, right? And of course, that sales team, let's say it's a mature one, right? So, as the team matures, there is a the momentum that's building up, and they are more and more inclined to do stuff in their own way, as we just mentioned, they harmonize themselves and they work very good together. And it's like when two partners in private life, they know each other and they complement each other so well, and there are fewer words needed, and the energies, they speak to themselves, and you don't have to speak that much. And in a mature team, which is also high performing, you can see that, you can feel that when you are there, like everything works so well like a harmony, like a symphony, right? And the more you go in time, and the team builds up this momentum, and they have their own stuff, and then as a leader, you want to implement things. You need to be aware of how this train, is moving, because it's a solid train moving forward, and it's very hard to to apply something which is out of place on that train, moving train, high speed performing train, and you need to be aware of that. So, for example, you mentioned just one example, right, to make it easier to grasp for people watching it, or maybe uh, young leaders. Um, the thing that the team might have their own inside jokes, and they're very cheerful, and they're not taking themselves too seriously, which most of the high performing teams do. And they're, like, you feel like you're in a stand up comedy sometime. And if the leader comes and say, "Hey guys, I'm sorry to do this, but you need to abide by these new rules," and not taking into account that this is not the approach which is appropriate for that team. And on the other hand, they can come and make a joke about it, and see, like, make fun of it, and make fun of the whole process, and, "Hey, look at this stuff, like, we need to do this, but yeah, I hate it too, but you know let's see how it goes," and involve everybody in it. And there's a totally different way of putting it. So in any type of change that can impact the team's activity in a big way, a new ERP installing, or a new CRM, or a new set of rules for engaging customers, or whatever, any type of uh, set of rules, or systems or processes that can disrupt the team's already high performance. It's very dangerous if you're not taking into account the team's culture. How about
Yeah.
your experience?
Yeah, I can tell you that it is exactly as you said. So if a big change comes in and the manager does not know how to translate that into a way of communicating it so that it fits within the team culture, that there's going to be a lot of pushback, because we know what happens, but we know that it also impacts a lot the results of that team. And now, because we're talking about a big change, and we're not on a big change, except for onboarding, bringing new people on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually, these changes are brought about either by the large organization, or if it is a smaller team, by the management and by the manager himself or herself, because they consider that this will bring results, right? That it will
Mm-hmm.
positively impact the organization. So not being able to translate that change into a language that speaks to the team culture will actually stall the change. And because anyway, we're prone to hate change, right? Push back
Mm-hmm.
any change. That's human being. It's not,
Yes.
it is within our nature, right? So if you do not, as a team leader, if you do not package it in a way that speaks and does not come as a threat to your team, it comes like just another thing, right? As you
Mm-hmm.
said, guys, I hate it also. I hate change as much as you do yourself, but we need to do that because of this or that. That that creates the opportunity for the team to embrace the change,
Mm-hmm.
whilst if it is not translated into the language that the team speaks within their internal inner culture, there is this pushback. There will be stalling. People will be sabotaging the change in itself, and you will find yourself as a leader 6 months down the line that you're still struggling. You're still at the beginning with your change. There will still be people who are pushing back. There will still be people. Of course, there will be people who will be embracing it, and people who will be pushing back as much as possible. And this will affect actually. Your team's results, because you will not be able to
Mm-hmm.
achieve your KPIs. There will be frictions within the team because of that. The team's dynamic will be affected. There will be fractions within the team that disrupt actually the process of achieving performance, and the energies will be spent towards that instead of towards embracing the change that will lead you towards achieving your results. So this is really important to understand that being aware of your team culture impacts the results of your team. And it's, we were talking earlier about, hiring a new person. It's, everything translates into results, right? Because any team, any organization is there to achieve results, whether we're talking about sales or a support team. Any team in an organization is there to achieve results. So if the culture of the team is not understood, and it's not the team leader, you as a team leader are not aware of the culture of your team, then you will have a real issue, because people will be pushing back, because teams are made of people, right? And we talked about that so many times, and I emphasize it so much, because I do believe that it is important to always remember that your team is made up of people who come with different backgrounds, different experiences. So understanding that team culture is important. And I think you asked me if I experienced a change within one of the teams, and I did experience. And I'm going to share the experience that I had with the team that had the culture that I really felt I belonged to and was suitable to me. And of course, because it was a top 25 Fortune company, changes were coming
Top
top to
down.
bottom.
Mhm.
So there was no way you could push back. There was no way you could avoid that. But
Mhm.
our leader had a way of, translating that. We were exactly as you said. We were jokingly talking about it. He was saying, I hate it as much as you do. Let's go have a drink about it, and see
Mhm.
how we can either, adjust to it, or how we can make it work for all of us. So it was a friendly approach. Uh, Despite the difficulty of the change, because there were times in which we needed to embrace changes that we all of us hated, and we knew that, for at least for us, for the way we worked, it didn't make any sense, right? We didn't feel that it brought any value. For sure, at a high level, from a strategic point of view, it did make sense. But for us, for the way because we were trained on the rails, as you said, right? We were moving, we were, all of us, we had a certain energy, and we were so well matched together that we felt we don't need any disturbance. We were doing really well. We were overachieving all the time, right? So it was that. It was the fact that he was really aware of how we were, our personalities. He was leading us in a way, towards change that was actually, we were making fun of it, but it was not, oh, we're all so tired, we don't want to do this. We were like, okay, let's another one, let's give it a try and see how it's, goes down the line. So it's really important to understand your team's culture, and this is why, because it affects uh, results on the long run, right?
Yeah.
And let's talk about, I think we talked about and we touched about that quite a lot in our conversation, but how does team culture impact high performance is, I think we touched upon it, but if there are any other topics that you want to touch upon, um, uh,
Yeah, I would like to maybe emphasize on because we discussed mostly about high performing teams. You're frozen again. I don't know if this is recording or not. Okay, now it's back. But I wanted to point out that both scenarios, let's say we take the extreme. You have one high performing team and you have a low performing team, or there are issues in the team and the team results. So the leader comes in and wants to implement change, as you said, in order to make things better, right? Even if you're a high performing team, you always as a good leader, you need to look for ways to even improve on that high performing team and make it even more efficient and more productive, and maybe help them work less and have better results. Or there's always something to be improved.
And
Oh,
in big organizations, sometimes you as a leader don't even have a choice, right? They come,
yeah,
as we said earlier, they come
exactly.
top down,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
just have to communicate it. You're caught in the middle between your team and the
yeah,
the strategy of the high management, that considers that as a good change.
yeah. That's correct. And also in this, and in the other end of the spectrum, there is a low performing team. So again, a good leader wants to improve things, right? And brings up upon change that, might be a different system or process or set of rules or whatever. So in both scenarios, if you don't take into account the team culture, as you mentioned, the the results are the exact opposite. Even so, it doesn't matter if it's a high performing or low performing, but the results are exact opposite, and the performing team will become low performing, and even in a because the ripples of this non-synchronizing uh, of the team culture with the change are very long, as you mentioned. Like, they can go on for uh, a lot of time and also impact everybody in the team, right? So uh, this is a big loss if you don't do that. That's the bottom line. It's always about the money because we're talking about corporations, right? Even though, yes, we as team coaches and as people development specialists, we love to see companies who are really taking care of their people and they want them to become better in the teams as well. But at the end of the day, they need to look at the numbers, and we want teams to become high performing and still be human, right? And stay human and stay in touch with the human side because we are not robots. But regardless of high or low performing, uh, again, I want to emphasize on this. If you don't bring about the change that synchronizes with the team culture, the results can be big losses, and the team's energy will be hijacked and uh, brought into the disruption instead of working on their own stuff.
And there is another thing to it, even if people stick around for a while, they will leave at the first opportunity, right?
Yes.
If the culture is not fit for them, if you're not aware of that, of your team culture, and if you don't speak to that, and if you as a leader, if you as a leader landed in a team that already had their own culture, if you're not fitted there, or if you don't adjust to that, that is going to be a hell of a job for you. you're
Yeah.
going to you're going to have really really long sleepless nights because of that. So it's the same thing for team members, right? So for you as a leader, you have more at stake than a team member might have, because you think of your career, you're already on your development path further, and maybe you might be thinking of your next promotion when you already landed this one and you landed in this team. So you might be willing to invest more effort into either embracing the team's culture, or if you're forming your team culture, you need to be aware that you have a certain personality style and a certain values and attract towards you the people that jive with you, because further down the line, people are people. They will seek safety. They will seek a place that brings them comfort. And we are all looking to evolve, right? And even if we have to pay the bills, even if your employees still have to pay the bills, especially now with how the world shifted over the past 2.5 years, and with so many remote work opportunities out there, people are not stuck or don't stay for such a long time in teams
Mm.
that are not, they feel that are not a good fit for them. And with if we're looking ahead, and if we're looking at what's going on in the workforce, with so many millennials being in the workforce and the newer generations coming in who are not really open to cutting corners to anything, if you're not aware of your team culture, if you're not embracing the team culture and working with it, you will not be having a high performing team, for sure, for sure. So this is how it impacts high performance, because people will be, you will have high attrition, you will have the team dynamics disrupted, you will have your own inner struggles, and you're a human being as a leader as well, right? If you are stuck with a team that is pushing back and is not achieving results, you're going to have a lot of a headache. It will also impact your career as well, because you might want to run away, or you know, if your team is not performing, for sure it shows up in the charts, and um, you will have issues with your top management as well. So there's so many ways that the team culture impacts achieving high performance, or can hinder achieving high performance for you as a team leader, and being aware of it is so important. This is what we wanted to talk about today. And I don't know, Gabe, do you have anything else that you want to add to this before we finish the conversation? Because I think there's a lot. I
Yeah,
mean, we both love
yeah,
this conversation about team culture and developing people and creating a safe space for people actually to be heard, seen, and
yes.
understood. So
Yes, I would love to share some recent example of how deep you can go as a leader into, identifying and mapping out this team culture. And by the way, as a leader and as a team, having coaching part of your life, as improving, like a tool for improving and becoming higher performing all the time, is part of a team culture. There are teams who uh, who take on coaching as something like, you have Google Docs, and you have email, and you have Salesforce, and you have LinkedIn Navigator, and you have coaching. It's like another tool. They take it into their culture as part of their life of becoming a better team. And one of the examples I want to give, like, uh, one of my favorite clients, I would say, yes, I do have favorite clients. One of the leadership coaching sessions I had with him, he said, I'm noticing this, difference now, because he's now very accustomed to seeing patterns, because we've been working for a while, and he picked up this looking for patterns and how people behave very, very well. And he said, I'm seeing like two sides of the team. One of them who don't have problems with sleep, and the other ones who have problems with sleep. And I would like to see how to help, the other part to have a better, quality of their life. So this is the level that I would hope every leader can go when, working on themselves and their teams to become better, and to want to make them, to help them have a better life. Because after all, this is what I think a leader should be: to want his team, their team, to become better as people and to have a better life. And of course, incidentally, they will be a better teammate and employee. So
that's for
I
sure.
love this example.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I really love this client of yours who thinks about the quality, the overall life quality of his employees and his team members. And because you were mentioning about teams that have coaching as a culture, I just wanted to share with you guys a fact that, in our sales efforts as well, I reached out to an organization that was a local organization here in Vancouver. And uh, we offered to do coaching for them. And the answer that I got from the CEO was that, we've been using coaching for the past 5 years, not only for me and for my executive team, but for all employees, because we couldn't have gotten so far without coaching. And I acknowledge that. So, and I was literally blown away by his answer. It was not because I was upset or anything. It was just because I was so happy to see that this was a small organizations, by the standards of, recognized standards of how you measure organizations. It has around 30 employees, and um, it was not the biggest. And still, he was coaching every employee. He was using coaching as a development tool for his business, actually, because your employees are part of your development plan of your business growth. You cannot grow your business without your employees. So developing them, you're actually developing and growing your business. This is really important
Mm.
for leaders to really wrap their head around this idea that you're not spending money on coaching, you're investing money in your business actually with coaching. So I think that was all from us today on culture and how does team culture support or prevent achieving better results. Until next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, everyone stay safe, stay well. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you're watching us on YouTube, to follow us, connect with us if you have any questions in regards to coaching and team coaching. If not, just stay well and see you next week. Bye, everyone.